I have decided to uh, I have decided to take voice students, and it may be a week or two before we get started. But so many people have asked me to teach them voice, and now I can't refuse anymore. So I'm going to do that. So I will concentrate for a bit. And see, I told people last night, many people, 7:15. So let's see. I have to concentrate a few minutes. And Sunday night, because I'm in this very dark passage of the descent into the night, um, I asked Vladimir to contribute something from the Vedas, and he spoke about the two nights that are in the Vedas, and it was beautiful, beautiful. And so many people are now opening to Savitri because of this connection with him, because he can bring all the Vedic knowledge in. I mean, he's a Sanskrit scholar. Yeah. So even Aishwarya is coming at 7:15.
No, she knows. Yesterday he told us
No, I just left her. She made dinner for me. She said, "I'll see you at 7:15." So, but we have the grace.
If people come, probably we can extend for another 15 minutes if they come.
Maybe Leo would bring his mother. Sweet lady and almost tone deaf. I worked with her for quite a few minutes and she couldn't get the note. So let's talk a little bit about Savitri first. Because the world is not ready for Savitri. Mother said it may be 100 years, 100 years before the world begins to open to Savitri. It means that we have to be so grateful and so humble that we have opened early to him. And I have this girl who comes to work with me about an hour and a half, a few times a week, and she's a very good typist. She's typing all my remembrances from the early 1960s. So they're going to be on the website eventually. And I'm so grateful to have her. And then this lady, Eosi, you know her? Eosi? Parameshwaram's wife?
Ojasi.
Sorry, Ojasi. I always get it wrong. Ojasi, yeah. She sent me two of her books yesterday. And one is how she memorized the Gita immediately. And when my friend Sneha saw that, her eyes popped like that. And I said, "Would you like to borrow it?" She said, "Yes, but I'll give it back to you Thursday." Amazing. And she's a wonderful lady. Ojasi, right. And you know them. And Parameshwaram. So when they come again, I'm going to do an interview with them. Yeah.
She does one translation in Sanskrit mother's words, charter in Sanskrit.
Oh, really? He did it for you, huh?
And she, just
Oh, she did it. Oh, wonderful.
what about the 2 nights?
The what?
2 nights.
Yeah, he said a lot about it. And Sri Aurobindo, well, I can go to that. I think it was 448, I think. Let me see. We can study that a little bit. I think it was 448. It's a very difficult canto. It's book 6, canto 2. No, that's not right. Where am I? It's the book 2, canto 6. That's what it is. Book 2, canto 6. Okay. And so he is, let's see where I can get it. The book of the traveler of the worlds, the kingdoms and godheads of the greater life. So I'll go back to 177 so we can just take a brief look at that. As if in her ascent to her lost source, she hoped to unroll all that could ever be. Her high procession moves from stage to stage, a progress leap from sight to greater sight, a process march from form to ampler form. And that is so interesting because it's the Divine Mother who has descended here into the ignorance. And being in the ignorance, she has lost her knowledge of where she came from. So the first thing he says, as if, and this is so often that we read in Sri Aurobindo, he doesn't tell us it's exactly like this. He'll say it may be as if he uses very often in Savitri, as if in her ascent to her lost source, she hoped to unroll all that could ever be. So she wants to unroll all of that, and she has a high procession that moves from stage to stage. And it's a progress leap from sight to greater sight. Now, this has to be understood in the terms of Mother meeting Sri Aurobindo. When all her knowledge of the past, her deep understanding of occultism, all the experiences she had, her stay in Japan, all of these things, she immediately gives up everything. And she's Richard, her husband, is sitting opposite Sri Aurobindo, and they are talking philosophy together. And Richard is an Asura. Yeah, Mother said that it's in the agenda. So Mother said, I just sat down next to Sri Aurobindo, and he began emptying my head. And he emptied her head completely till there was nothing there. And it's incredible, you see. Two people I know have had the silent mind. And one of them here is in Matrimandia, Alain Grancolas. You may have met him or know about him. He had it for a couple of weeks and it said it almost drove him crazy. And Sri Aurobindo put that silent mind into many disciples, and they all asked him to take it away. It was too much for them. But he achieved it in one day with Pascal Lely. And Mother achieved it in just that hour that he was talking to Richard. It's amazing, just amazing. And Mother said, all that I knew, all the realizations I had, I immediately gave up and offered them to Sri Aurobindo. And when we think of what she has done, and then he puts her in charge of the ashram, and that's an ultra-human feat. She has to be in charge of all the departments. She has to meet all the secretaries. She has to meet hundreds of people in one day. Hundreds. I can remember sitting waiting to go up to her, and a line of people were ahead of me. And, you know, there was a lady once, I don't know if you know this story, very wealthy lady, who wanted to show Mother all her beautiful jewelry. And she had to wait and wait and wait. There were so many people ahead of her. And she finally left. She was tired of waiting. And Mother said, even the gods wait for me. And this woman couldn't. A little further down, he speaks about her timeless power that lay once on the lap of a beginningless and endless calm. All of that she had. And she had to give it up to take human birth. I just read a letter that I had in around 1968. And this girl is writing to me and she said, Mother told me this yoga is not for you. And I knew another lady who was here 10 years, living in Golkund. And one day Mother calls her up and Mother tells her the same thing. This yoga is not for you. And this lady understood it so beautifully. She went back to the US, got married, had children. But this yoga is not for everyone. It can break us if the humility is not there, if the surrender is not there, if the love is not there, and the gratitude. You feel her now? Just come in. Mother. Mother writes, calm is self-possessed strength, quiet and conscious energy, mastery of the impulses, control over the unconscious reflexes. I was with a student on Skype the other night, and Sri Aurobindo speaks of the immobile, akshara, the immobile, the immutable, is the silent and inactive self. It is the unity of the divine being, witness of nature, but not involved in its movement. It is the inactive Purusha, free from Prakriti and her works. And this is how Sri Aurobindo and Mother divided their work. He was the silent witness, Ishvara, Purushottama, and he supported all of Mother's work. But he never took part in it, because that witness self is so important in us that we can stand back and look at our actions and realize the ones that have to be worked upon and the ones that are positive, because the witness self sees both aspects. And the witness self is in each of us, and we can access it any time at all. In times of severe stress, it's much more difficult to activate it. I would say it's not a him or a her, it's an it, the witness self. It's us looking at ourselves with dispassionate, calm, forbearance, because the path is very long and it's very difficult. And yet, though many are not suited for it, many are, all over the world. I told you, I think, about the Catholic priest. Remember that? Well, Aurobindo Basu, who was my Upaguru, had a long correspondence with this Catholic priest. And he told me to write some letters on his behalf to the priest, and we invited him to America. Well, he was in America. We invited him to the retreat in South Carolina. Wonderful man. So we asked him to give 2 talks, and the first talk he gave, Sri Aurobindo and Teilhard de Chardin went over everybody's head. Nobody got any of it. So, well, a few people, but the second talk he gave was how Sri Aurobindo came to him. So he arrives in the ashram, and he's put up at Park Guest House. And the night he comes, Sri Aurobindo appears to him materially, not as a ghost but just as our bodies are here, appears to him and speaks to him. And then again, just as he's leaving to go back, I think he was in Midwest, he's at the airport. And again, Sri Aurobindo appears to him materially, speaking to him, and other people are around there. And so he spoke so beautifully that people were in tears. And then the most incredible thing of all, he gets up, and you know, in that retreat, excuse me, we have two gigantic photos of Sri Aurobindo and Mother. You may have seen pictures of the retreat. And he gets up and he bows down and prostrates himself in front of Mother and Sri Aurobindo. And of course, everyone loved him after that. And he said, now I consider myself an Aurobindonian Catholic. Oh, there's so many of these great things that happen. We have to just open to them. Ranganath now is being recorded every day on essays on the Gita and the synthesis of yoga. And we're doing the Life Divine every Saturday. So it was nice that these people, I think it's a Korean lady, Songki Lee, and she's recording it for everyone so we can hear it. Every day practically he stays in his house now. He doesn't walk very much, but he's a year younger than me, and he feels that he's starting to lose his mind. So I tell him, look, I don't have any mind, so I can eat Splenda and whatever else they say that disturbs the mind. But I'm very happy that we have him because people love he's so brilliant. And I asked him one day, so I said, when did you rise to the spiritual planes of consciousness? And he says, I've never risen there. I said, Ranga, with your extensive knowledge, how is that possible? He said, well, there may have been moments. And it's extraordinary. Okay, I think we're going to start. Again, 53. So it's all right for all of you, 6:30? Is that convenient?
6:30 should be okay.
Huh? Okay, because 7:15 gets a little late, and I have to take a taxi tonight at 8 o'clock back to Pondicherry. So, Book 1, The Book of Beginnings, Canto 4, The Secret Knowledge. Too seldom is the shadow of what must come cast in an instant on the secret sense, which feels the shock of the invisible, and seldom in the few who answer give the mighty process of the cosmic will communicates its image to our sight, identifying the world's mind with ours. Now, I have to share with you something that Sri Aurobindo, I found this in The Secret of the Veda. It's a definition of the cosmic will. Very important because he capitalizes the W in will. Agni is the Deva, the all-seer, manifested as conscious force, or as it would be called in modern language, divine or cosmic will, first hidden and building up the eternal worlds, then manifest, born, building up in man the truth and the immortality. So beautiful. So this cosmic will in the life divine. Moreover, we see that this cosmic action, or any cosmic action, is impossible without the play of an infinite force of existence, which produces and regulates all these forms and movements. And that force equally presupposes or is the action of an infinite consciousness, because it is in its nature a cosmic will, determining all relations and apprehending them by its own mode of awareness. And it could not so determine and apprehend them if there were no comprehensive consciousness behind that mode of cosmic awareness, to originate as well as to hold, fix, and reflect through it the relations of being in the developing formation or becoming of itself, which we call the universe. My gosh, this cosmic will, you see, that's something we have to understand. It's so powerful. And so I'll continue on now. Oh, but I should do one more in a letter on yoga. The cosmic will, and he capitalizes both cosmic and will, is not to our ordinary consciousness something that acts as an independent power, doing whatever it chooses. It works through all these beings, through the forces at play in the world, and the law of these forces and their results. It is only when we open ourselves and get out of the ordinary consciousness that we can feel it intervening as an independent power and overriding the ordinary play of the forces. So this is extremely important because it never acts on its own. It always acts through the consciousness that's behind it. But it works through all these beings, he says, all of us. And it is only when we open ourselves and get out of the ordinary consciousness that we can feel it intervening as an independent power and overriding the ordinary play of forces. Now that's very important because there are so many plays of forces. I won't mention Asuric, but let's take Rajasic and the lower one. They are always in the atmosphere, and even the genius who thinks he has a new vision of something is just tapping that from that worldly atmosphere. Sri Aurobindo said, none of our thoughts are our own. None of our thoughts. Wow. Any questions? Okay. Now he's going to come down on us a little bit. Our range is fixed within the crowded arc of what we observe and touch and thought can guess, and rarely dawns the light of the unknown, waking in us the prophet and the seer. And that's a little depressing, isn't it? Because our range is just fixed within this crowded arc of what? Of body, life, and mind, and the senses, the materialistic view. That's all we are right now. We have to rise above that. Our range is fixed within the crowded arc of what we observe and touch and thought can guess. So we could have said smell also and sight. That's the five. And that's empiric knowledge. And it's the knowledge that science has held for hundreds of years. And now they're breaking through. I watch a lot of these things on YouTube. These great people who are breaking through in consciousness to the light. And I could rattle off 10 names that are very important, but the important thing is that we are breaking through as a species, as a human species, breaking out of the narrow, breaking out of the narrow, yeah. Well, Bhaskar said they couldn't come for 2 weeks, so we're just started now, just begun. Our range is fixed within the crowded arc of what we observe and touch and thought can guess. And then he says to us, and rarely dawns the light of the unknown. And I've read to you previously many times, the unknown is not the unknowable. It need not remain unknown for us unless we choose ignorance or persist in our first limitations. For to all things that are not unknowable, all things in the universe, there correspond in that universe faculties which can take cognizance of them. And this is why time travel, telekinesis, telepathy, all these things are possible. Things that science does not accept. We have to enlarge our faculties to go from the unknown into the known. And then he says, sometimes, he says, and rarely dawns the light of the unknown, waking in us the prophet and the seer. Now, that's a very, very important line, because I may have shared with you before, but I'll share other things with you today. The great composers of classical music were able to go into those planes and bring down the melodies and the harmonies. Johannes Brahms said, I can go into those planes and bring down any music that I want. Beethoven said the same thing. And that's the prophet and the seer, that they are far above us. But now he's going to tell us more. The outward and the immediate are our field. The dead past is our background and support. And we live too much in that dead past. Even though it's our background, it's also our support. And in my discussions with Shraddhalu, we understand that there are good things in our past, and not everything has to be discarded. Only the negatives. Mind keeps the soul prisoner. We are slaves to our acts. We cannot free our gaze to reach wisdom's sun. And he's not stopping there. Inheritor of the brief animal mind, man, still a child in nature's mighty hands, in the succession of the moments lives. To a changing present is his narrow right. His memory stares back at a phantom past. The future flees before him as he moves. He sees imagined garments, not a face. We have to discuss that a bit because it's very important. So, mind in us is keeping our soul prisoner. Not a very nice thing to understand, that we are slaves to our acts. How many times do we react or do the same thing over and over and over again, as if we're puppets? So mind keeps the soul prisoner. We are slaves to our acts. And he has a semicolon there because he wants to continue. We cannot free our gaze to reach wisdom's sun. And it's only when we have wisdom and not knowledge that we have made the progress. Knowledge is useless to us. It's wisdom that's important. And then he goes on to say that we are inheritors, inheritor of the brief animal mind. And we know that the animal mind does not have the mind that we have, but it does have instincts. It protects its young. It can flee in times of danger, or it can use tremendous force to bring down a prey. And we are inheritors of this brief animal mind. And then he has this beautiful line, man, still a child, in nature's mighty hands, in the succession of the moments lives. Now, this is something that Buddhists and Advaitists and those who believe that this whole world is an illusion, believes that we should live in the succession of the moments. The great Lao Tzu and many of the Chinese and Tibetan yogis say that live in the moment. You've heard it. Not Sri Aurobindo. He says we are living in the succession of the moments. And then he says, to a changing present is his narrow right. And that's our only right, that this present is always changing. His memory stares back at a phantom past. The future flees before him as he moves. And then that line, that extraordinary line, he sees imagined garments, not a face. Armed with a limited, precarious strength, he saves his fruits of work from adverse chance. Yes, we do that. We don't want our work destroyed or corrupted by anyone. So we save it from adverse chance. Our poems, our music, our loves, our ideas. A struggling ignorance is his wisdom's mate. He waits to see the consequence of his acts. He waits to weigh the certitude of his thoughts. He knows not what he shall achieve or when. He knows not whether at last he shall survive or end like the mastodon and the sloth and perish from the earth where he was king. These are powerful lines, huh?
Narad,
Yes, please.
imagine garments.
Imagine garments, yes, not a face. So there are lines in Savitri about the hem, and Mother speaks about the hem of the garments
Ah,
that we touch, but we don't see the face. Oh, if we could see her face. And I have seen it so many times in inner experiences where Mother would come to me, speak to me, and others as well, Sri Aurobindo as well. So, still, we want to save the fruits of work from adverse chance. We, a struggling ignorance is his wisdom's mate. He waits to see the consequence of his acts because sometimes we do very good acts. We don't want to see them destroyed. We want to see them preserved, but they're very small. He waits to weigh the certitude of his thoughts. And my gosh, he knows not what he shall achieve or when. And that is true of all of us. We don't know what we're going to achieve. Many of us are quite young, in our late 20s, early 30s, 40s, 50s, and we know not what we shall achieve or when. And then these two powerful lines. He knows not whether at last he shall survive or end like the mastodon and the sloth, and perish from the earth where he was king. What's the mastodon? A big elephant-like creature. And the sloth, very slow moving and dying out through much of the world. I heard an interesting thing from an Aurovillian recently, that these fellows who used to take foreigners on hunting trips to kill the sloths at night have stopped doing that, and now they take them to photograph everything. So it's nice. Okay. He is ignorant of the meaning of his life. He is ignorant of his high and splendid fate. Look at that, 2 lines beginning with he is ignorant. That's us. What is the meaning of our life? It's a good question, isn't it? Why have we come here? Why is this earth in such trouble? Why is falsehood rising instead of falling? The answer there is it wants to impede the progress of the supermind. And if we don't understand that, we can't begin to understand why there's so much evil on the earth. Only the immortals on their deathless heights, dwelling beyond the walls of time and space, masters of living, free from the bonds of thought. Interesting line. They are masters of living, but they're also free from the bonds of thought. These obligations that tie us to things, free from all of that. And then we'll go a little further, next page 54, and end there today. Let's see. beginning. Whoa. Who are overseers of fate and chance and will. Notice he capitalizes all three words: fate, chance, and will. And overseers are those who watch as from a higher position. And of course, he capitalizes fate. And I should read, well, no, I've done that so many times with you. It's okay. We'll continue on. And experts of the theorem of world need can see the idea, the might that changed time's course. And we'll go back to that in a moment, but I want to end that sentence. Come maned with light from undiscovered worlds. Here, while the world toils on with its deep, blind heart, the galloping hooves of the unforeseen event, bearing the superhuman rider near, and impassive to earth's din and startled cry, return to the silence of the hills of God. As lightning leaps, as thunder sweeps, they pass, and leave their mark on the trampled breast of life. Oh, there's so much to share with you here, and I'll do that, and then we'll stop. First of all, experts of the theorem of world need. These beings are experts at that. They are overseers of fate and chance and will. And the theorem is very interesting. It's not a theory. A theorem is a rule or law, usually expressed by an equation or a formula. Or it's an idea that has been demonstrated as true or is assumed to be demonstrable. Can see the idea. Now, Sri Aurobindo is leading us to something very important. We'll end with that. Can see the idea, the might that change time's course. So they can see the idea, they can see the might that change time's course. And what does he say next? He says, come maned with light from undiscovered worlds. Now, we know what a mane is on a horse. The long hair along the top and sides of the necks of certain animals like lions. And Sri Aurobindo uses actually manes, dense maned, lion maned in Savitri. So they're coming maned with light from undiscovered worlds. And they hear, while the world toils on with its deep, blind heart, the galloping hooves of the unforeseen event, bearing the superhuman rider near. Who is the superhuman rider? Anybody? Kalki. And Kalki is supposed to be the last avatar. And so most of the ashram people and myself believe that Sri Aurobindo is the last avatar. He is Kalki. Yes. And what does he say? He says avatar would have little meaning if it were not connected with the evolution. The Hindu procession of the 10 avatars is itself, as it were, a parable of evolution. First, the fish avatar, then the amphibious animal between land and water, then the land animal, then the man-lion avatar, bridging man and animal, then man as dwarf, small and undeveloped, but physical. And physical, but containing in himself the Godhead and taking possession of existence. Then the Rajasic, Sattvic, Nirguna avatars, leading the human development from the vital Rajasic to the Sattvic mental man, and again the overmental Superman. Krishna, Buddha, and Kalki depict the last three stages. Notice that he says first Krishna, then Buddha, and then Kalki last. Depict the last three stages, the stages of the spiritual development. And then he goes on, and this is so beautiful. Krishna opens the possibility of overmind. Buddha tries to shoot beyond to the supreme liberation, but that liberation is still negative, not returning upon earth to complete positively the evolution. And then he says, Kalki is to correct this by bringing the kingdom of the divine upon earth. Oh, destroying the opposing Asura forces. The progression is striking and unmistakable. So Kalki is Sri Aurobindo. And impassive to earth's din and startled cry, return to the silence of the hills of God. As lightning leaps, as thunder sweeps, they pass and leave their mark on the trampled breast of life. We'll end it there. Any questions? Okay. Namaste. 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 Quite an evening to see the progression of the evolution in one paragraph of Sri Aurobindo. And then to confirm that he is Kalki. Yeah. Wonderful. It's so human, my watch is completing.
No.
Next week, 6:30.
6:30.
And I'll confirm it with the news and notes also. So I can say it 13.
Yeah.
But he placed 6:30.
Yeah.
He
Yes,
placed
Saturday.
6:30 only. He placed the ad 6:30 only in recent books.
Oh, very good. Okay. Now we're going to have the Om choir on Thursday at 5:30. Because, no, I talked, had a long talk with Elmwood and Suresh, and they agreed that this would be the ideal time itself. Because the square hall is so filled with exhibitions. And so we will be using Sangam. It's very nice.
Email.
How did you do it?
Apple and pomegranate.
Apple and pomegranate.
Yes.
Oh,
The cherry blossoms.
hmm?
There are cherry blossoms.
Yeah, that's from
Dolores.
Dolores. Her birthday. Yeah. Every day